cool atmosphere last weekend. You guys played well on Friday night. Obviously got away from you on Saturday, but I guess with all the buzz around the hockey team going into the weekend, and then you have the Uper jerseys, gives your perspective on the weekend's games.
Yeah, obviously Bowling Green's a good team. Got to give them credit. They're fighting for home ice. They didn't. They had a lot of returning players, and they're playing like a mature team that's trying to secure a home ice spot. We didn't like our first period. We've had slow first period starts for whatever reason why. We're still kind of navigating our way through that. But after the first period, Friday night, I liked our second period. Definitely liked our third period, and then the game was in our hands. We had a power play in overtime, a 4-on-3, and that's when you need to execute to finish the game off. And that would have been a good win for our crew, but it didn't happen. I think we got a block shot. They go down on a 2-on-1, their first chance, and they score. And that's deflating mentally, and it's really hard to recover from that. I think that's college hockey in general when you have a chance to beat a team that's higher than you in the standings and the game's in your hands and you find a way to lose rather than win. It beats you up mentally. And I thought there was a bit of I think there was a carryover into the first period on Saturday night. I didn't think we played very well at all. We couldn't make any plays. We were slow. We addressed that with the team. But if you look at it, I think we only had 3-4 shots on the first period on Saturday night. And then you look at the game total, it's the most shots we've had this year. I think we had 38. So the second period and third period, I thought we were playing with way more urgency and desperation, and that's how we need to play for 60 minutes. And if we do that, that gives us the best chance of winning. And a credit to Bowling Green, they won 2 games. They've earned it, and, that probably will secure home ice for them. So we're a young team, continuing to learn how we have to play every single night. It comes down to, obviously, execution, compete, and most importantly, consistency. If you get consistency, it usually sets you up for success.
Let's talk about the highs of the high. I mean, obviously it's 2-1 minute to go in the third on Friday night. You guys find a way to get that game-tying goal. Take us through the emotional highs of that goal and then the deflation on Friday night after the overtime.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you score a goal late to tie a game up, the emotions are high. Guys are excited. You start playing on your toes. There's a game there to be won. There's belief, which, I think our young guys believe they can win on any given night. And that goal signified, hey, we're in this game. We got a chance to win it. Obviously, we drew a penalty, and then the game's in our hands. And I think we've only had one good look on the 4-on-3, maybe 2. I might be missing it. And, you need your best offensive players to find a way to execute. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. We got a block shot. They go down, like I said, on a 2-on-1, and they score. That is deflating. It brings you down in a hurry. And you really got to address it right after the game right away. Hey, guys, it is what it is. That game was there to be won, but we have to rebound more so mentally the next day to be better prepared. And we didn't do a real good job of that, like you indicated in the first period.
Let's talk about Bemidji, because you get the 2 wins against Bemidji. You're playing well against Bowling Green. What steps do you have to take to get over the edge and finish out the season on a high note?
Yeah, we've talked about not worrying about the results. It's a process. All year long we've said that.
Well, we see the team getting better.
Yes, and that's the most important thing. People, not just us as a staff and the players, we are getting better. We were 500 there for a while after the break, and then, Tech comes along. They're a good team. They're fighting for the title, and Bowling Green's fighting for home ice. Every night's hard for us, but there's no quitting our team. They do believe in each other. It's just 2 things, like I said. It's execution and consistency on how we play. And our compete has been pretty good this year. We make it difficult for teams. We're not an easy out. We don't score often, so we need things to fall into place there. And usually sometimes that is offset by having good special teams and goaltending. You can win games that way. So, again, you learn from that. We're going in against Lake Superior that I think they're fast. I think their power plays are good. And we've been pretty good on smaller ice surfaces. Hopefully we continue to do so and give it our best shot in terms of special teams, goaltending, consistency, and competing. And then we've got a real good chance of coming away with some points.
Latch with the goal on Friday that we've talked about. I just haven't him back, the veteran presence, did you feel a difference with having, your captain back on the ice on Friday?
Yeah, I wouldn't, and I'll say this, he's obviously our captain, but it's hard to say he's a veteran. He only had 12 career games coming into this season. So he's got a lot on his shoulders, and he's done a real good job of that. He's got a real presence in the locker room. Obviously, he's highly respected. Everybody knows he can shoot. And I think for him to get a couple goals and come away healthy from the weekend is a positive thing in the right direction, because he really hasn't had that. And we needed him to score, and he did. And I think it's a relief off his shoulders that, hey, I'm healthy, I get a chance in 2 back-to-back games, and I scored some goals. So that's a positive thing. Now he's got to get back into game conditioning, because he's really not up to par conditioning-wise because of his injuries. So we need him to continue to do what he's doing, but there's a lot more to his game than what appears, because he's a little bit behind conditioning-wise. But he does give us a presence in the locker room, does give us an asset on the ice, because he has the ability to score.
You brought up playing slow on Saturday, not really being there mentally. It's kind of been a consistent theme throughout the season. Is there a way to rectify that over the last month or so?
Yeah, I disagree with you. It hasn't been a theme for the season. I think it has been at home in first periods, but on the road, our first periods have been really good. We've talked about that at Bemidji, for example. We were really good on both Friday nights in the first period. So it's a mental thing I think we have to overcome a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit more pressure at home with such a young group. Usually that's offset by having a large number of upperclassmen, which we don't have. So that's part of the learning process. But we got to get through it. We're late in the stage. So our goal is to be better Friday night in Lake Superior than it was this past weekend against Bowling Green.
The first Lake State series so long ago, early November, didn't go very well for you guys. Can you contextualize where and how your team has gotten better since that early November series?
Yeah, we've gotten better. I think systematically we've gotten better. We need to be consistent in our systems. It's hard to remember that far back. I know they scored a pile of power play goals. I think they had 4 in one game. Obviously, we can't do that. And as I mentioned earlier, you got to be good on special teams. You got to get good goaltending this time of the year to win hockey games. So, all we're doing is watching tape. They haven't changed a whole lot. I think right now the biggest differences in lineups is I don't even remember who was in the lineup back then, and they probably had some guys out too. So that changes. Your personnel changes. We have players that played in that series earlier in the year that are not playing in this series, particularly this weekend. We got guys that are inserted that are healthy because you deal with a lot of injuries. So I think our roster is probably a little bit different than theirs were, and we're giving guys opportunities to go in and play the game. And like I said, it's about continuing with the process. And if we take care of the process in terms of compete and execution and do well on the special teams and goaltending, that gives us our best chance of success. Mike?
Howdy. No, I think they've summed it up pretty well. Friday was decent, couldn't bounce back Saturday, and I have to go back and change that for this weekend.
Yep. And it's a mindset, and the guys are aware of it. We've addressed it with the captains and everything else. And, all coaches, they'll go through these ups and downs. And you talk to your leadership group, and you have them take ownership, and they have suggestions. Do we do anything different to prepare our guys? There's not a whole lot. Sometimes as a player, you got to take ownership. And when you're that young, it comes down to being really consistent night in and night out. And that's why we've seen a lot of this, in my opinion.
Second half effort in both of those games. I mean, just the way they kind of bullied both of those teams at home. What did you see in the final 20 minutes of Thursday and Saturday?
Yeah, I thought after kind of getting bullied on the road against, in particular Lake State, I thought our response was exactly what we talked about all week, which was let's be more physical, let's be tougher, let's be more aggressive, let's, just try to go take it. And I thought, the little dust up that happened on Thursday, at that point it was 15, and I thought that was kind of a good symbol of the weekend, because right after that happened, you never know what's going to happen, and we just put our foot down It went from 15 to 35. So I thought it was a good step for the team. I thought we finally looked tougher and nastier and older than the opposing teams, and I hadn't felt that way all year. So that was kind of a fun twist this weekend, and definitely what we wanted.
Talked about Dudek on Thursday, but he got 6 for 6 on Saturday. Just brought a lot of life into the lineup. Just what did you see from him over the last 2 games?
Yeah, I mean Jackson, Dylan, and Sam are they're the old guys. They've been here. Those three and Brian came in together. That was our second recruiting class, but really our first recruiting class. And it seems like when your back's against the wall, we all have a tendency to go to the things that we trust the most and believe in the most. And I don't really know why I hadn't thought of it before, but starting those three obviously worked and kind of was an easy decision as soon as I realized, well, we could do it. Now it does screw up some rotations on the back end a little bit because they still are our three big guys that we've been playing at 2 spots, but it's well worth it with how much bad starts we've been getting out to at least try it. And if we can get Peter Lados going a little bit, we might even be able to lean into it more if he can, give us some minutes at that backup big spot.
And more running the point, just seeing a lot of good things from him recently. Just how does he kind of balance you guys when you have those bigs in the lineup playing together?
Yeah, no, I think he's been sensational. I think he's getting better and better, and it seems like he's more than maybe any player on the team. He seems like he's had almost a linear growth all season, where he's just every week. I think he's more comfortable. I'm more comfortable with him. I think his jump. He went 2 years of junior college, then he did the NAI thing. Was fabulous there. I think the D2 game's starting to feel normal for him, and he's able to just play rather than having to think. And part of that is, we do run a pretty complicated offense, and he's the point guard, so he has to manage all that. And it feels like his brain is slowed down where he's able to just play basketball. And I wish we could make it easier on these guys sometimes to just play, but I think he's now where he's not thinking about it as much, and he's just making plays and playing. And I'm excited to see kind of what he looks like the rest of the year, because I could see him kind of taking off a little bit. It just seems like something's actually changed with him more so than he had just one good game.
Do your guards feel like they're getting kind of, now that you're going through the second time around the conference schedule, do your guards feel more comfortable?
Yeah.
Knowing what to somewhat expect now?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I think I think the game is steadily kind of slowed down for all of them. Obviously, I talked about Derek because I think his might be the most extreme, but I think the same is true of Gerald and Julian and Big E. I think those guys all, as they've seen everything for the second time, I think, and Cal's in his game. I mean, game 6 for him this weekend. He's in game 7 of his career. So it makes sense that it's starting to slow down for him too. But I think it's really, if this team's had upside all year, it's been that guard position, which wasn't playing very well. I always thought it was talented, and our upside was always, can they get to the point where they're playing well? And they played well this weekend. I still think they have some room, and that's going to be kind of the fate of our team going forward as we have I think a really tough schedule left. We need those guys to go, or it's time, and it's either now or never. So kind of excited to see how we do this weekend.
This weekend, I know you're not looking past Saginaw at all, but Wayne got you here.
Yep.
What's the key to a different outcome against Wayne State this time around?
Yeah, I mean, I think Saginaw just beat Wayne. I think they're probably more similar than they are different, other than our results, which was the Saginaw win was, it wasn't easy, but we got up 20. I mean, it was relatively easy. And the Wayne game was the opposite. We got down 20. Couldn't have been worse. And so I think in some ways the challenge is going to be to not overreact to either result and stay as level about it as possible. The hard part with Wayne is they did it without Adley's one of their starters, and I think Wayne's a really good team, but our other losses have all been to the top teams. So that one at home feels like the one we kind of let slip away in the sense of you should win that one at home. I don't know. I don't know exactly. I rewatched it now 3 times, and they made They made shots, and they made the other night they went like 4 of 30 against Roosevelt, and they lose at home. They're not this elite shooting team always, but against us, they were, and we're going to have to try to slow them down. I think the key for us has been getting off to these starts where we don't let them see the ball go in over and over and over early, and then we can actually settle down and guard them. So I think if we can take away the first 5 minutes of the game in both nights and not let them see a bunch of threes go in, I hope we can have some success guarding both these teams.
Does that mean maybe a change in defense, just every once in a while to keep them off balance?
Yeah. I think it's definitely something, we've explored. Our defense this year has been so interesting because every game has either been elite or terrible. And when I say elite, like the best defense we've ever played since I've been here. And we've done that now in like 13 or 14 games where it's been just incredible. And then we have one average defensive game against Parkside at home. And then the at Ferris game was below average. The rest of them are atrocious. So it's been really weird in that that's not normally, it looks the opposite of a bell curve. It makes no sense. With that being said, that's where that changing defense stuff gets interesting because if you go into it changing what's been elite in all these games, it seems a little silly. But at the same time, if you go into it doing the exact same things that we did the last time and it doesn't work, that also can seem a little bit silly. So it's a decision that we haven't made yet exactly. I think we'll go into the Saginaw game playing kind of our base defense that we've played all year. And then if that works again, now we're on 3 straight games. Are we going to start out with an adjustment or are we going to start out kind of the same against Wayne? I don't know yet, but I will say it's one of those things that it is a decision that is obvious, but is difficult. And we just got to make it one way or another. And we'll kind of see what we feel like after Thursday night's game.
That's the way Ron Lee played the first time you almost needed a box and more.
Yeah, we had to do something. And honestly, at that point, he was averaging 12 a game. And I was trying to tell our new players and his numbers at that point, he was a pretty ordinary player, but we had all seen what happened at the end of the previous season. So we knew that was coming at some point. You didn't want to overreact to last year's stuff because maybe he wasn't healthy yet, or maybe at least this time we know going into it, like what Rob Lee is and is capable of. So I think we can do some things, better, clearly. And then do we overreact is the other thing I'm a little cautious of because he has not played that way before or after. If we start taking him away exclusively, it's not like Marcus Tomashik that's averaging 29 and doing it every night. If it's that, I think there's a different answer than he did it once. And that's where it gets a little more difficult maybe.
You guys hanging around in the conference 2 games back
Yeah.
with 8 to go. All 3 of those teams ahead of you still on your schedule. 2 of them at home. Just how much faith do you have in this guys, especially your vets, that they're going to push this thing till the very end, that you're going to stay in the mix?
Yeah, and we're right there in the NCAA tournament too, which maybe is a little more in our control. The conference stuff, we're going to need some things to break right, and we're probably going to have to play a little bit out of our minds if we're going to really rally off 8 in a row or whatever, 10 in a row to end it. But the NCAA tournament is very much so in play, and it's definitely there. Like we have every year, we talk about it, we don't ignore it. It's been our strategy the whole time to just talk about those things. The problem is you can't get too far ahead of yourself, and most of the I'll use the pathways like we're talking about Ryder Cup style. The pathways are this. The pathway to us making the NCAA tournament probably involves a 2-0 weekend, and the pathway to go 2-0 involves winning Thursday. So in some ways, we try to take that big carrot, whether it's the championship or whether it's, and then reduce it down to, but this needs to happen or we can't do it otherwise. And in a way, going into last weekend, I didn't know if we were going to win again. I thought we might be done, and I just didn't think we were playing very well. And then you have those 2 great games. It'll be interesting. Can we string together? We've been good here because we've gone on runs. We went on a run already. If we have a second run in us, really good things are going to happen. If we don't have another run, we won't be in the NCAA tournament. We certainly won't be talking about a conference championship. So, do we have those elements that we've had in the past that lead to one of those runs? I think we have some of it. I don't know yet. And we're gonna have to shoot good. Not it's like we make 35% and everyone's like, oh, we made some shot. Like that won't cut it. We're gonna have to go make some shots. We're gonna have to go win some games. And I think we can, but we haven't proved that yet. The 7-game win streak we had, I think, is nice to know we've kind of have done it, but we got to do it if it's gonna happen.
Any chance you get Brian back this year?
We'll get him back this year. He'll play again. I don't know when. But we'll get him out there. I hope it's next weekend for the senior night, at least in some capacity, even if it's not 100% normal version of him. But he's been so important to our program, and it'll be important for me. We're gonna get him out there again. What that looks like, that's what I don't know because he's not back to the point yet of guessing. But he will be on the floor again, and we'll make that happen for sure.
Grand Valley is Grand Valley, and they played like Grand Valley for the most part, and I thought your team competed, but they just didn't have enough.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is when you play against those really, really good teams, you have to do everything to the best of your ability. We had opportunities a couple times to cut that into single digits with their lead, to make a little run. We were counting and tracking some of our shots that we were making, missing some layups or some 3-pointers that were not usually misses for us. But again, you got to execute on every end, on every possession with that team. Otherwise, that's what happens.
How about defense on Saturday? I don't know if they had 15 points at halftime or something like that.
Mhm.
Just
6, 7, 8 first 3 quarters.
Yep.
That has to make a coach very proud. Just the defensive effort on Saturday. What did you think?
Very happy. And I think, it was our whole team. It was everybody locked into what they were doing and not allowing them to get second chances and third chances on the boards as well. It took everybody, and that was a big part of it. We played a lot of people too. So we were just keep those bodies as fresh as we can, and they just kept going. And it's fun when you make shots too, and it kind of helps your defense. Once you get a stop, your offense gets a little bit more of a flow. So it was just a really fun team win on Saturday.
We talked a lot about conditioning throughout the beginning of the season. Now you're literally going through an NBA schedule to end the basketball season. How do you like your team where they're at right now? What's the conditioning and I guess injuries like right now with Northern and going through this last 15 days, 20 days of the season?
Yeah, I think we're sitting in a really good spot. We're playing a lot of people right now, and that helps with your conditioning. It's more of, okay, now when you're on the court, go hard, play hard, because somebody else is coming in. It's not necessarily people who are doing a bad job when they're on the court. It's just getting them a rest and getting fresh legs and getting another body in there. We're being very consistent. Some of our freshmen and our new people are stepping in and doing a really good job, and then they're also pushing our upperclassmen too. And our upperclassmen is kind of like getting on them a little bit too, of like, hey, you got to go harder, you got to play harder, you got to play faster, and that's when it's really fun. And they don't care who scores. Our bench was awesome. People were up celebrating no matter who was on the court, no matter who was scoring buckets, and it was a really good team win all around on Saturday.
With Grand Valley, you played them 4 times last year. You've been home and away against them this year. You've been really close to taking them down the last 2 years. Knowing conference tournament time, a month from now, you're gonna have to go through them again. Just how do you address that to the team and know and kind of instill a little confidence that you could potentially knock them off, and that would be a huge win for the program.
It would. And that's kind of seems like it's a long ways away, but it's a short ways away all at the same time. It's just, again, getting a little bit better each and every day. We did some good things against Grand Valley that we saw. There's obviously a lot that we need to clean up as well. And we had a really good practice here coming back on Friday, getting ready for Saturday. It was a good kind of turnaround, a bounce back after Grand Valley. It doesn't really go away though, right? Like you have that Grand Valley thing hanging over your head, but at the same time, we still got to do a lot of stuff before we get to that point. So that's kind of where our focus is right now. And then we'll get to Grand Valley again once we hit them again, but we know it's not going to be easy. That's why they're the number 1 team in the country for sure. But we got a lot of work to do before then.
It wasn't easy against Saginaw Valley or Wayne State the first time they came to Bandman. What are some of the things that you need to change besides hit the shots? what are some of the things you need to change against those two teams when you go down there this week?
Well, I would like to say I hope it carries over from Saturday. Our defense is the first thing. We got to be able to slow them down, and both of them play that full court press. They're going to be up on us, and they're going to be denying, and they're going to be on the lanes. And that was one thing the first time I think they hit us a little bit harder, where we kind of were taken back a little bit. Where we got to go out and we got to be ready. Playing on the road in the GLIAC is also not easy, and it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a battle for both of them. But Saginaw Valley, they got a lot of pieces, and they're going to throw a lot of different things at it. We were just watching Parkside, and they're throwing in a 1-3-1 defense. So it's like, okay, you never know. You got to be ready for anything and everything. But it's going to take our whole team again, just like it did on Saturday, for us to get the win. But defensively, we gotta bring it to them just like they did to us that last time.
How hard is it not to change your lineup when you know a team's gonna press you and you need more dribblers?
It's figuring things out. And the thing is we don't really, I'm very confident with each one of our people handling the press, but they have to be confident when they're out there. And that's what I think with Saginaw, the first time we played them, I think that kind of got to us a little bit. They forced some big turnovers for us, and we had quite a few in both games. And that's one of the reasons I think why we didn't come ahead. So it's got to be able to have the confidence of being prepared. We've seen a lot of presses since then. We've handled the ball pretty well since then. It's just making sure that our team is confident with what we're doing and how we do things.
Refresh my memory. 10-second violation in women's?
Yeah, in the half court.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm good.
Get 2 wins.
Oh, we will try. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys.
Saturday at home, you guys got to be looking forward to this one. I think last time in the pool before GLIACs, just
Yeah.
you know, how are you building up to those championships, and what do you hope to see this weekend?
Yeah. So we've just started to kind of, we've been really fine tuning, and we had a great showing at Green Bay last weekend, and it's always fun to go beat a Division I team, and they're getting better and better, but they swam really well. The men broke 6 pool records and set one of our school records. And to be where we are right there going into the last couple weeks before conference, it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited about it for sure. But this weekend will be great. It's kind of our senior recognition, and Lake State has just added men's and women's swimming. And so it's their first time, it's their first year. And so they'll be at our pool. And I know they don't have very many swimmers right now, but it's their first year. So it'll be fun to like start that meet with them for sure. Yeah.
How much pride do you take in, you know, setting records?
It's kind of great. You know, when you walk into a pool, it's kind of the first thing a lot of the kids do is kind of look, you know, there's always a records board, and they always kind of look and kind of gives them a little bit of, you know, motivation, like, what can I do today? And so it gives them a ton of confidence. And right now, everything we do, you know, I told them, it's like, you got to find one thing every day to make you confident going into the conference championships, because, you know, a lot of it's mental too, like just feeling good about where you're at. That's important.
You know, having Lake State in your
Yeah.
pool, just, you know, there's few opportunities over the course of the season for you
Right.
guys to actually compete in your own pool.
Right.
Just, you know, what's nice about that, you know, no matter who's competing.
Yeah, it's really, you know, being in our own pool is great. We had, you know your walls, you know the turns, the divers know the boards. That's always great. And you know, if anything, right now it's about resting and making sure they get sleep. And even though we went down and back on the same day for Green Bay, you know, we were back at 10 p.m. and you know, getting them to bed, and you know, that's a big, long day for them. You know, so. Being home is a big advantage, and I'm hoping we'll have some parents here too this weekend, and that always gets them feeling good too. So it'll be a good moment. We have I think 18 seniors we're recognizing, which is huge, and so it'll be fun to have their moment. Yeah.
Does Lake State have its own pool yet? Or are they-
They do have their own pool, and it's actually a little bit different than ours. It's 25-meter pool, and ours is 25-yard pool. So be interesting. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to the coach yet. I'm not sure if we're gonna go there next year or they're coming back to our pool. I think they've just started. It sounds like they now have enough for men's relay. So that's exciting. I think they only had 4 men on the roster at one point, but now, or 3 men, and now they have 4 for a relay. So that'll be fun for them. Yeah. Cool.
I guess, how do you advise a new team? I mean, you've been
Yeah.
here a while, you know how it works.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Well,
if
I
they're
mean,
looking
I started the when the men's team was reinstated, we had to go find the bodies, right? And I think for us, we went in kind of guns blazing. We had found lots of men, local and foreign, and just from all over that really bought into what we were doing. And I think for us, it helped that we had a successful women's team, so they felt good about it. And but it can be tough to fill the numbers because they probably want you at over 20. You have to have 18 for a scoring roster, and so it takes a little bit of time. And especially if he's starting men and women, like I think after this year and their performance, I think that'll help get more people. So yeah, I'm hoping they do well. It'd be nice to have another team in the UP because we were the only ones. So yeah.
Indoor season, right? Yeah, just how do you view the difference between indoor and outdoor, and where you guys are trying to be now in February in the thick of winter?
Yeah, well, the indoor nice thing is the weather's always good, you know. But it's a whole different thing, you know. But it's great. We have it's really a good chance for everybody to see our results and keep moving forward, and definitely some great performances so far. And it's a short season. It's really compact because our conference championships now are only 4 weeks away, so you got to pack a lot in a short time. And then you had a little break and then into the outdoor. But they're really two full different seasons, and the athletes are doing great so far.
Yeah. How do you kind of build up over the next four weeks or so? Like you mentioned, be where you want to be come conference championship time.
Yeah, well, this last meet was pretty competitive, so there are quite a few teams, which was great. And then now this next one is a little bit smaller, and then we go to another more competitive meet. I mean, they're all competitive. This next one has Wayne State and Saginaw Valley. It's a smaller meet, and kind of see where we are at against two of the other top teams in the conference. And then we go down to Minnesota, which is a really highly competitive meet, and then the one pre-GLIACs, but we keep improving throughout the season, which is usually what happens. We kind of plan that we work hard to the point when we get up to these first meets, and now we kind of back off a little bit and just refine all the techniques and all the things that we're doing to keep getting some greater performances as we go.
I'm sorry. Since Heidi was just in here, it sounds similar, but I don't think it's quite the same. They have a longer season, so they get to slow down a little bit more and then build to a peak again. Do you really have time during indoor to do that?
Not really, because it's so short. So we kind of all fall, we were sort of building, and then we had our downtime kind of over the winter break, but now we're sort of going towards the peak right now, is really refining and really peaking in these next 4 weeks. And this is kind of our chance as we go each week to really see, what we can do and keep refining each little thing to keep them getting faster. I mean, of course, there's, with track and field, there's so many different events, 19 events in the indoor. So every event is a little bit different. So distance runners, we're still putting in quite a bit of volume at this point. So we will take up until this point, we've been putting in the volume, and then we won't reduce really until another week or so. Whereas the sprinters are, do something a little bit different. The throwers do something different. It's like so many different events. And so, and I'm not an expertise at all of them, but it's almost impossible to be. But yeah, so there's not a lot of time for to back off and then, to have a little slow down a little bit, just kind of go for especially these last 4 weeks.
We just covered Lexi Olson over at Westwood High School signing with you guys, and obviously you have a bunch of local athletes on your team. Why is that important for your program to keep that going and just bring in some of the best track and field athletes from the area and have them wear green and gold?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting, and I think that it's like, here we are in this community. We really want to support this community, but we also see there's a ton of talent here, but especially with cross country and track and field, they don't get quite the opportunities that they get downstate in our sports, and so there's a lot of like untapped potential, I think, for sure. And it's just great to have these local kids, and then they, I've had kids go away and then realize this place isn't so bad, and they have come back. Bo Truckee, for example, now she's back on the team, which is kind of exciting. But they just, it just brings a whole different thing to the team, a whole different positive atmosphere, and then they know that this is a great place right where they live, and so we're super happy when we get, and we really try to get some of these local kids